Chapter 3 of Erema. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Erema by Richard Doddridge Blackmore. Chapter 3. A Sturdy Colonist. For the contrast betwixt that dreadful scene and the one on which my dim eye slowly opened 3 days afterward, first I thanked the Lord in heaven, whose gracious care was over me, and after him some very simple members of humanity. A bronze-colored woman, with soft, sad eyes, was looking at me steadfastly. She had seen that, under tender care, I was just beginning to revive. And being acquainted with many troubles, she had learned to succor all of them. This I knew not then, but felt that kindness was around me. "Arauna, Arauna, my child," she said, in a strange but sweet and soothing voice. "You are with the good man in the safe, good house. Yet old Suan will give you the good food, my child." "Where is my father? Oh, show me my father," I whispered faintly, as she raised me in the bed and held a large spoon to my lips. "You shall, you shall. It is too very much Inglese. Me tell you when have long Sunday time to think. My child, take the good food from your poor old Suan." She looked at me with such beseeching eyes that, even if food had been loathsome to me, I could not have resisted her. Whereas I was now in the quick reviving agony of starvation. The Indian woman fed me with far greater care than I was worth, and hushed me, with some soothing process, into another abyss of sleep. More than a week passed by me thus, in the struggle between life and death, before I was able to get clear knowledge of anybody or anything. No one, in my wakeful hours, came into my little bedroom, except this careful Indian nurse, who hushed me off to sleep whenever I wanted to ask questions. Suan Isco, as she was called, possessed a more than mesmeric power of soothing a weary frame to rest. And this was seconded, where I lay, by the soft, incessant cadence and abundant roar of water. Thus every day I recovered strength and natural impatience. "The master is coming to see you, child," Suan said to me one day, when I had sat up and done my hair, and longed to be down by the waterfall. If too much Inglese, old Suan say no more can now." "If I'm ready and able and willing. Oh, Suan, run and tell him not to lose one moment." "No sure. Suan no sure at all," she answered, looking at me calmly, as if there were centuries yet to spare. "Suan no hurry, child no hurry, master no hurry, come last of all." "I tell you, Suan, I want to see him, and I am not accustomed to be kept waiting. My dear father insisted always. But oh, Suan, Suan, he is dead. I'm almost sure of it." "Him old man quite dead enough, and big hole dug in the land for him. Very good. More good than could be. Suan no more Inglese." Well as I had known it long, a catching of the breath and hollow, helpless pain came through me, to meet in dry words thus the dread which might have been but a hovering dream. I turned my face to the wall, and begged her not to send the master in. But presently a large, firm hand was laid on my shoulder softly, and turning sharply round, I beheld an elderly man looking down at me. His face was plain and square and solid, his short white curls on a rugged forehead, and fresh, red cheeks, and a triple chin, fit base for remarkably massive jaws. His frame was in keeping with his face, being very large and powerful, though not of my father's commanding height. His dress and appearance were those of a working, and a really hard-working, man, sober, steadfast, and self-respecting. But what engaged my attention most was the frank yet shrewd gaze of deep-set eyes. I speak of things as I observed them later, for I could not pay much heed just then. "'Tis a poor little missy," he said, with a gentle tone. "What things she hath been through! Will you take an old man's hand, my dear? Your father hath often taken it, though different from his rank of life. Sampson Gundry is my name, missy. Have you ever heard your father tell of it?" "Many and many a time," I said, as I placed my hot little hand in his. "He never found more than one man true on earth, and it was you, sir." "Come, now," he replied, with his eyes for a moment sparkling at my warmth of words. "You must not have that in your young head, missy. It leads to a miserable life. Your father hath always been unlucky, the most unlucky man that ever I did know. And luck cometh out in nothing clearer than in the kind of folk we meet. But the Lord in heaven ordereth all. I speak like a poor heathen." "Oh, never mind that," I cried. "Only tell me, were you in time to save?" I could not bear to say what I wanted. "In plenty of time, my dear, thanks to you. You must have fought when you could not fight. The real stuff, I call it. Your poor father lies where none can harm him. Come, missy, missy, you must not take on so. It is the best thing that could befall a man so bound up with calamity. It is what he hath prayed for many a year, if only it were not for you. And now you are safe, and for sure he knows it, if the angels heed their business." With these words he withdrew, and kindly sent Suan back to me, knowing that her soothing ways would help me more than argument. To my mind all things lay in deep confusion and abasement. Overcome with bodily weakness and with bitter self-reproach, I even feared that to ask any questions might show want of gratitude. But a thing of that sort could not always last, and before very long I was quite at home with the history of Mr. Gundry. Solomon Gundry, of Mevagissey, in the county of Cornwall, in England, betook himself to the United States in the last year of the last century. He had always been a most upright man, as well as a first-rate fisherman, and his family had made a rule, as most respectable families at that time did, to run a nice cargo of contraband goods not more than twice in one season. A highly querulous old lieutenant in the British Navy, who had served under Nelson and lost both arms, yet kept the rheumatics in either stump, was appointed in an evil hour to the Cornish coast guard, and he never rested until he had caught all the best county families smuggling. Through this he lost his situation, and had to go to the workhouse. Nevertheless, such a stir had been roused, that, to satisfy public opinion, they made a large sacrifice of inferior people, and among them this Solomon Gundry. Now the Gundrys had long been a thick-set race, and had furnished some champion wrestlers, and Solomon kept to the family stamp in the matter of obstinacy. He made a bold mark at the foot of a bond for £150, and with no other sign than that his partner in the stanch herring-smack, the Good Hope of Mevagissey, allowed him to make sail across the Atlantic with all he cared for. This Cornish partner deserved to get all his money back, and so he did, together with good interest. Solomon Gundry throve among a thrifty race in Boston. He married a sweet New England lass, and his eldest son was Sampson. Sampson, in the prime of life, and at its headstrong period, sought the far west, overland, through not much less of distance, and through even more of danger, even his English father had gone through. His name was known on the western side of the mighty chain of mountains before Colonel Fremont was heard of there, and before there was any gleam of gold in the lonely sunset frontage. Here Sampson Gundry lived by tillage of the nobly fertile soil, ere Sacramento or San Francisco had any name to speak of. and though he did not show regard for any kind of society, he managed to have a wife and son and keep them free from danger. But, as it appears to me the more I think of everything, no one must assume to be aside the reach of fortune, because he has gathered himself so small that she should not care to strike at him. At any rate, good or evil powers smote Sampson Gundry heavily. First he lost his wife, which was a great denial to him. She fell from a cliff while she was pegging out the linen, and the substance of her frame prevented her from ever getting over it. And after that he lost his son, his only son, for all the Gundrys were particular as to quality. And the way in which he lost his son made it still more sad for him. A reputable and valued woman had disappeared in a hasty way from a cattle place down the same side of the hills. The desire of the Indians was to enlarge her value and get it. There were very few white men as yet within any distance to do good. But Sampson Gundry vowed that, if the will of the Lord went with him, that woman should come back to her family without robbing them of sixpence. To this intent he started with a company of some 20 men, white or black or middle-colored, according to circumstances. He was their captain, and his son Elijah their lieutenant. Elijah had only been married for a fortnight, but was full of spirit, and eager to fight with enemies. And he seems to have carried this too far, for all that came back to his poor bride was a lock of his hair and his blessing. He was buried in a bed of lava on the western slope of Shasta, and his wife died in her confinement, and was buried by the Blue River. It was said at the time, and long afterward, that Elijah Gundry, thus cut short, was the finest and noblest young man to be found from the mountains to the ocean. His father, in whose arms he died, led a sad and lonely life for years, and scarcely even cared, although of Cornish and New England race, to seize the glorious chance of wealth which lay at his feet beseeching him. By settlement he had possessed himself of a large and fertile district, sloping from the mountain foot along the banks of the swift Blue River, a tributary of the San Joaquin. And this was not all, for he also claimed the ownership of the upper valley, the whole of the mountain gorge and spring head whence that sparkling water flows. And when that fury of gold digging in 1849 arose, very few men could have done what he did without even thinking twice of it. For Sampson Gundry stood, like a bull, on the banks of his own river, and defied the worst and most desperate men of all nations to pollute it. He had scarcely any followers or steadfast friends to back him, but his fame of stern courage was clear and strong, and his bodily presence most manifest. Not a shovel was thrust, nor a cradle rocked, in the bed of the Blue River. But when a year or two had passed, and all the towns and villages, and even hovels and wayside huts, began to clink with money, Mr. Gundry gradually recovered a wholesome desire to have some. For now his grandson Ephraim was growing into biped shape, and having lost his mother when he first came into the world, was sure to need the more natural and maternal nutriment of money. Therefore Sampson Gundry, though he would not dig for gold, wrought out a plan which he had long thought of. Nature helped him with all her powers of mountain, forest, and headlong stream. He set up a sawmill, and built it himself, and there was no other to be found for 12 degrees of latitude, and perhaps a score of longitude. End of chapter 3.